Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Noodles? Back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. Back to Noodles, ready to go. Hops up on Rays. Can't wait. Let's go.
Can't wait. Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, we gotta love the Rays energy, right, Joe?
Woo. It's pumping through my veins.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Here we go. Don't forget, repsports.com, Rays energy drinks. Raise them up. Just raise them right there. R-A-Z-E.
Enter the promo code.
M-U-P. That's right there to get your discount here just through us, a Football on the Know show. Yeah, not a whole lot going on, Joe, in the NFL right now. You're hearing some little headlines here and there. One of the things, not to be a downer real quick, though, I just want to bring up the fact that Jeff Gladney died, in that car
passed away,
crash
25 years
like
old.
That's sad. When I got that news, I seriously was just upset. You know, I don't know him or anything like that, but to see somebody that young and stuff like that, die like that, it's so early. Now we've had the Dwayne Haskins, him
passing away,
passing away as well, and now Jeff Gladney, and it's just sad that a lot of this stuff is happening right about now.
You're seeing it's not something that we want to talk about or bring up or anything, because it's like for a lot of the families and friends that are dealing with this, there's no right way to say anything like sorry or anything. It doesn't cover it. So it's like you just try to be there for them and try to, be there for whatever they need you for. So, and then another sad thing too, let's just keep piling it up, is we just learned recently that former Cowboys running back Marion Barber, 38 years old, he passed away in his apartment. Still trying to figure out what the finer details are as to why. But another passing from a younger player. Jeff Gladney, now Marion Barber we're hearing, and Dwayne Haskins. There's no words. You know what I mean? Like it's extremely sad. Like, again, just like you said, we don't know them on a personal level. It's not like we call them and ask them for advice or anything like that. Like, we're not friends, but being part of the football community, being part of this NFL family that we're trying to build, you gotta feel for these players. Like, out of left field, like, it's just out of the ordinary, where guys are passing away and they're still young. They're still young. They haven't even lived half their life yet.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But our condolences go out to the families and friends of the recent passings of all these football players, and hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, too, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight that are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch, and also listening to us on all your podcasts,
anywhere you
Spotify,
can get your
and everything
podcast
that you can too. We really appreciate the support. We just today. I just found that this is an actual thing. I haven't been paying attention to a lot of Maddens and stuff like that because I haven't really played a lot and I haven't bought one in a long time. But June 1st, that's today is official hashtag Madden Day,
baby.
It's Madden Day. That's right, buddy. So the new cover was released today. So let's take a look at the cover here. Here it is. Here, there it is. This
Rightfully
is the All Madden edition. Now here, this is a special one. One of 3 different covers that are going to be issued here for this year's Madden 23, and it's funny because today, June 1st, they call it hashtag Madden Day. That's because it's the anniversary of the first launch of John Madden football on June 1st in 1988. In addition to the reveal that's announced here today, an update, on the $5 million that the John Madden legacy commitment to education is going to be made here. So now the $5 million, half of it's going to go towards a United Negro Fund that he's supporting, that he wanted to try to work on. It was really fought really hard for, and a bunch of other different collegiate sports donating money for different types of things for them to get scholarships. And then also John Madden Field, which is in Redwood, California now, is getting revamped, and they're going to be issuing some, having some games there held this year and stuff like that. So that has been announced today. Also,
and upon the opening of that football field, they're going to have, I believe it's 4 flag football youth teams coming in to play the very first games on the new Madden field.
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to be very cool. And one thing we did learn before they are going to announce some more later on, starting tomorrow and through the next coming weeks, new gameplay innovations are going to be revealed and the features that are going to have on this game. One major introduction already known is that the first interactive experience will showcase 2 versions of Coach Madden leading teams of all Madden players against each other in the 1970s Oakland Coliseum. So that'd be cool to see a Coach Madden on the sidelines to get to see him out there, and yelling and see how he interacts with the players out there. And also continuing with the theme of looking back on John Madden here with the different updates and renovations that they've done here. I thought about this today, and I was talking about it with some colleagues, is that they actually did it, though, is the voice of Madden will be back in the game. And thanks to some remastered audio that they've captured from the previous games, they've put into the new version. So now you'll actually be able to hear John Madden in a new game as well, too. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and to hear those Maddenisms that they've had. I'm wondering how they're going to mix it in, though, if they're going to mix it in with some of the new guys that have there too, and or just have him be one of the commenters, during the game.
Yeah, usually they go with two figures that normally call a game or whatever. And if maybe not a lot of our viewers out there remember, maybe some of them do, but when John Madden used to call games, it was unlike any other person that calls games. The guy would come up with different lingo, different terminology, and now it looks like you might have some of the younger people that love Madden kind of be like, who the heck is John? Oh, this is the guy that started all this. And now it's evolved into what it is today. And now you get a glimpse of what it was almost like when he was calling games. I just hope that, just like you were saying, like the Maddenisms, I hope they come back. Boom! Every time someone made a tackle or he'd make up these little sound effects when he was on the drawing board and circling players and drawing arrows and everything. And he'd be like, whoop, whap. What all these different noises to go along with his calling of the game. So I hope they bring it back to its traditional sense. And as far as Madden being teamed up with someone, maybe it might be Pat Summerall, who he was with, kind of like a flashback of both of them. Back in when they were calling games together. Now, Pat Summerall's passed away. Madden has passed away now. So maybe they might bring the 2 of them back, because if they were able to get some remastered audio from Madden,
they probably could have
not put Pat Summerall there and reunite them, or maybe they do a mix of both. Maybe they have Summerall and Madden at times, and then but we'll have to wait and see. I think Madden is definitely going to be the focal point of the game.
Yeah,
but.
Which we all probably think it should have been.
It should be kind of don't try to force it. You know what I mean? That's what I guess I'm saying for the video game creators and stuff. Don't try to force it to make it this epic thing, because when you force something, it just doesn't quite fit. So I think it would be awesome to bring Pat Summerall back and Madden together, calling the game or whatever. And what's to say you could have special occasions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Have Madden with someone else or whatever. But for the most part, I think they'll keep it the same all throughout.
Right. Either way, I think some of the innovations I hope that they do make is revamp the franchise, the way the franchise has been. I think it's bad for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's still put it up there on the top shelf of the Maddens. I think still that Madden 11, I think, is one of the best ones because it had a kind of an equal matchup of things. The franchise was really nice. The scouting was set up with that. And then, it still had his quirks and things like that. Like we talked about the linebacker being able to intercept from 10 yards back and stuff like that, which they finally just started to fix in these newer versions. And some of the wide receivers finally starting to stop and make some catches before, tiptoeing before they go out of bounds. And but we'll see what they do add to it. We hear everybody complain every year about something else about it, and what they haven't fixed and what they have not. So hopefully they can work it in.
I do have a suggestion for EA. And one of my biggest, pet peeves was I know they want you to do the online, like the ultimate team type of mode where you get on there and you get your deck of cards, whatever, and those are the players that you have to play with. And then you go online and you play against somebody, a complete stranger. Why not make it more like multiplayer, like with your friends? Like where you could get on and you can start a season with your friends. Like you could have like anywhere from 1 to 4 players, and you can get online and you can either play with each other in a season or play against another opponent online. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's something that they still need to bring back to Madden games.
Yeah.
Is the availability to where like you can choose whether you want to do mano-a-mano against someone online, or if you want your friends to jump in with you, whether you play against each other or with each other,
right?
In a season. And I think that's something that some games have gotten away from. And I know that there's a ton of players out there that really enjoy that, to where you have the capability to play together in a season, no matter what sport it is.
Hey, how about I ask you before we move on to this, because this is kind of a question I think that a lot of people would be interested in, or even like they kind of thought about a bunch of times when you talk about Madden, the different announcers that they've had over the years. Who do you think they should bring back, or even who was your probably favorite commenter or commentator in the game? I remember the times, again, it was back when 2011, even I think 2009 might have had him too, is Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson, all the way with the way things he said, I think he might have, was he even the one that got turned where I think people don't want to say this, because of the way things are sensitive right now, but he's got run away from the cop speed and stuff like that. Like he would say stuff like that, and some of his excitement, because you heard it when he called games in real life too. He got super excited, yelling, screaming, and he wasn't even rooting for a certain team. No. He was just excited about being there and experiencing the game almost as a fan. So I think he really brought a lot to that type of commenting.
Absolutely.
About the game.
I mean, Gus Johnson, he heightened your game. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like if you had Gus Johnson as your announcer for that game, he was going to make your game the highlight matchup to watch. You know what I mean? So like you saw on ESPN, like whenever they had their top 10 or the best plays of the week, Gus Johnson was almost routinely on there just because of his play calling. You know what I mean? Like he would be so excited, so energetic about it that you felt like you were right there sitting in the stands. So definitely Gus Johnson has got to be one of those go-to type of announcers that you would love to have routinely. And I don't know if because he's so requested from other sports, because he has been on a lot of different sports. Things. He's done baseball. He's done college football. Like he's been all over the place. So I wonder if he's in such demand now that the NFL can't hold on to him.
Yeah, right. It could be, or just EA. He's tough to get. Definitely. So yeah, the Madden, it's exciting. We can't wait to see the next coming covers and the more news that's going to be revealed to us in the next coming weeks and days until it's out there. So
I'm getting it. I'm just getting it.
That's cool. I hope it goes to Game Pass pretty soon, because I just hate to spend money on Madden.
Well, I'm getting it because of obvious reasons, because Madden will be on the cover.
Oh, I bet.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So we want to thank you guys for joining us here with us tonight, on Facebook and all that, and YouTube, definitely. But we've got some news to let you guys know about here. Saturday night, don't forget, Saturday night, June 4th, 7 p.m. kickoff. The Albany Empire and the Carolina Cobras. The first time they met in week 1, Cobras took down the Empire, but they're a whole new team now. Don't forget, tickets available, AlbanyEmpireNAL.com. Get them now. Check it out. The team is up and running. Joe, super excited. Like I said, I was there for that first game. Boom, there it is. I was super excited for it. Their secondary was a little rough in the first week, but again, I think they've worked out the kinks these last couple of weeks here. All right, so that's right. Check it out, Saturday, June 4th, 7 p.m. kickoff. I'll be there. Joe will be there, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun, man. Check it out. Tickets available, AlbanyEmpireNAL.com. Happy June, boys. Mike Tackett's in the house with us tonight.
Hey, there he is.
There he is.
What's going on, Mike?
All right. All right, the NFL Europe 2.0 starts this weekend. Can't wait to see Jim Tomsula resume coaching. Or Tom, what am I saying, Tom? Was it Jim Tomsula? All right, yeah. I was thinking of Tom. I mixed the names up. I messed them up. That's what it was. I was thinking of somebody else. I'm sorry.
Next.
Resume coaching where it all started for him. Even better, the week 1 of the NFL is only 99 days away. Oh, wow. Check that out. I didn't even think about that either.
Mike's
Cool.
got the countdown.
He's all about it. He's
ready.
all about it, definitely. It was funny, too, is I was listening to something on the radio, too, and they were talking about the fantasy football even getting started and things because, it's going to catch up. It's coming up June, July. Then there's and I'm like, I'm excited about football season and stuff, but don't rush the summer too quick for me because I really don't want to get into all of a sudden it's going to be gone and then winter's coming again just that quickly. I want to. It's been going fast for me right now as it is. I don't want to try and rush it right now. You know what I'm saying? I want to sit back and relax because up here in upstate New York, we know the end of the summer is nearing once Saratoga starts. The one race is it. Pops up, and then we're like, oh, no, the Travers. Once the Travers hits at Saratoga, you're like, oh, no, summer's over. But you know what? Then we know that football's going to be kicking in.
That's all I
We're
care
excited
about.
for it.
Get me closer to the season. I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, also, besides some of the stuff, the sad things that have been happening in the headlines, but we also had Madden. Some of the news popped up here with the NFL and the situation with Roger Goodell and Daniel Snyder again now. Dan Snyder.
Of course it is.
And Roger Goodell again. Congress asked them to appear at a hearing in Washington franchise the workplace culture. So don't forget that's all still going on. I'm sure the NFL and the Washington Commanders want to try and keep this out of the headlines as much as they can, and people not thinking about it, not talking about it, but this is still lurking over there. Now you guys, now that the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial's over, you guys cannot focus on that anymore. You guys can focus on this other stuff here.
Next
these
court.
guys here. So, Joe, so what do you think about this? Now they're getting called in for questioning here. And what do you think is going to go down with these guys here?
So this is the interesting thing about this whole deal going down now. Now that they're being requested, Dan Snyder and Roger Goodell being requested to come in to go over, listen, for an interview, basically. They're trying to find out more evidence about what's going on with the trial with the NFL, with Washington. And now this is going to kind of bleed into the John Gruden trial as well. Gruden, who sued the NFL, label it what you want, defamation of character, whatever. Basically, the NFL forced Mark Davis to fire him. But Mark Davis refused to fire him, so Gruden took it upon himself to say, you know what, I'll just retire instead. That way, we both kind of avoid the PR problem there. But now, Gruden is coming back, striking back hard against the NFL, taking them to court, and I feel like this is all going to kind of intertwine here, because if you remember, back when they found 615,000 emails, and that's kind of where this all stemmed from. And the NFL said, but we found this one piece of email that Gruden sent to us and said something about Goodell and all this thing happened, and then all of a sudden Gruden retires. And what happened to the rest of the emails? That's what everybody was wondering. Media and fans alike were like, well, what about everything that you found? Oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. The NFL's like, no, don't worry about that. We just found this one. So now, fast forward to what's happening currently. The court wants to find out what is going on with the rest of these emails. And the fact is that Dan Snyder, who had kind of like a not so okay workplace going on, so there was some shady stuff going on in Washington.
Goodell himself called it toxic.
Yeah, toxic. But there were some things that were happening in the workplace that are a no-go, and now the court wants to know about it, and they want to get to the bottom of it. So they're bringing in Goodell and Dan Snyder, and then then on top of this, you also have the John Gruden trial against Roger Goodell in the NFL. There's a lot of heat now against the NFL. So what could transpire from this is a lot of different avenues. Goodell going up against Gruden. Now it's going to be a public court, which the NFL did not want. They got overruled on that. Now you have all this heat against Goodell in the NFL. What could end up happening with that? If Gruden wins, most likely Goodell could be forced out of office, could be forced out of being a commissioner. And then on the other end, when you have the court going against Dan in Washington and all that situation with Goodell and all these emails that still nobody knows anything about, what could happen with that? Dan Snyder, and we've heard rumors, but he could be forced to sell this team. Even though Dan Snyder signed over the ownership, the majority ownership to his wife, it's still in the family. So they could be forced to sell this team by the end of that trial, and then Goodell could possibly lose his job by the end of the Gruden trial. So there's a lot of things going on all at once, and both court cases are going to be interesting to follow, just to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about, you've heard different things from the NFL's publicist has issued statements and said we've been cooperating constantly with them, and same thing for the Washington Commanders now too as well. They have their publicist that have said, here we're talking with them, we're releasing everything that we can with them, in full cooperation with the investigation. But now when you're getting called in yourself and you actually have to testify on oath and things like that about what's going on, that's a whole different situation. The one thing that is positive for Goodell is he is a lawyer, so he knows what to expect with some of these things, so I'm sure he's going to be savvy with what's going on. But I don't think Congress would be calling upon them if there wasn't something going on. When there's smoke, there's fire. So looking into this and the findings that they've had here, it keeps digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and we'll see how far this whole thing takes us now that it's moved out of the NFL's hands. Because if you remember, back when it happened, back in, I think it was October, the league tried to look into this further in 2021, about the they didn't release a report detailing the findings of an independent probe that they've had themselves. And you think back when Washington hired lawyer Beth Wilkinson in the summer 2020 to look into the allegations and things. And it seems like she said also as well that they tried to cover up certain things and there were different doors that were closed to where she didn't get the whole thing. So that's why Congress took notice of this. They took over the investigation themselves now. So now they're moving forward here. And Chairwoman Carolyn B. Maloney and the subcommittee on the Economic and Consumer Policy Chairman Raja Krishnamurthy, I think is what name had stuff to say, said Wednesday that they've sent letters to the league and the team requesting the presence of Goodell and Snyder on June 22nd. So there you go. There's the date right there that we're looking at. And we'll see what happens with all of that and where, what they have to testify to, what evidence is maybe brought forward amongst all that and stuff. And then we'll see what happens, whether the Washington football team, or there we go, I just said it, the Commanders have to be sold off or what. And this could be the start of something else. Again, you're seeing these different teams also maybe changing hands and selling off. We've heard even rumors it has nothing to do with toxic situations and stuff like that. But other franchises, like there's rumors that the Seattle Seahawks might be under new ownership in 6 to 12 months too, that they might be selling or something like that. So
yeah, it's it's a rumor, but I mean it's both the Blazers and Seahawks are saying in 6 to 12 months that they're most likely going to be sold. But why? Why all of a sudden would Seattle be selling?
Yeah,
Blazers maybe, but Seattle Seahawks, really? They're going to sell that team?
Right. I mean, and so now, and then we're hearing about, again, the Broncos are for sale. So if this happens, we could see new ownership from the Broncos. We could see new ownership with the Washington football team, and then possibly with the Seattle Seahawks. And I think I even heard maybe that the Atlanta Falcons might be doing something else, but
they're not selling.
But imagine that. We talked about when you're trying to change their good old boys type of mentality and things like that, and new ownership, and maybe getting African Americans into ownership and being part of the whole table. Maybe we could see some of that start to happen with the beginning of some of the selling of these teams. Some of that getting implemented into all of that. Yeah,
and that's one of the big things that have to happen. You know, everybody's complaining about, you know, there needs, and the NFL's trying to not force teams, but push teams in that direction of hiring more minorities for being a quarterback's coach or some member of the staff or a GM or, you know, but really the only time it's really going to change, the culture's going to change in the NFL is, like you say, the good old boys club, which is probably the best term to use, is you have all these, you know, inherited, very wealthy white dudes that own teams, and they've been around forever, or their families have been around, you know what I mean? And they keep holding on to the team. But when minorities are able to sit at the owner's table and have a discussion with the rest of the owners and how we should be pursuing different avenues of hirings and what have you, then you're going to see real change at that high level, at the ownership level. That's where it's going to change. And I hope that with the Broncos being for sale, possibly down the road Commanders being for sale, and maybe Seattle way down the distance, maybe you could get a group, like a minority group, to come together and have a majority owner as a minority to be able to not only just own the team but also speak for everybody else. You know what I mean? To at that high level, at that table, and say, okay, listen, this is what we got to change. Forget the Rooney Rule, you know, and this is how we should go about it, because right now, where they're kind of morphing that Rooney Rule, it's almost like you might as well just say, okay, well, for every position in the NFL, you gotta at least hire or at least interview a minority. But we all know what's going to happen. Okay, fine, we'll interview a minority to get the guy that we wanted or targeted for a long time. And that's not to say I don't think that's it. I don't believe it being racist. If a team that sees a guy for like 5 years and they're like, that guy can coach, that's the guy we want. We want that guy. But now we have to bring in somebody, you know, a minority to interview in order to get that guy in and then hire him later. Some teams, I think, have a racist persona, have either at a high level, either at ownership level or GM level. There might be some racism there. But not all teams across the board, you know, and how they go about hiring are racist. So it's finding those small cliques at the top end and making the change there. That's when the whole league can change altogether.
Absolutely. So again, this could all tie together. Who knows? Again, maybe we'll hear more of the things that have happened. We've heard about Daniel Snyder holding back money even too from the league and other teams too, and things like that. You've heard that they should be. So it's other teams are affected by everything that he's done too. It's not even just his employees and the way he's treated the women and things like that, and the sexual harassment. And we've heard even stories about this. Well, with the cheerleaders, I remember one podcast even a few years ago. We were reading articles, and I did a thing about the cheerleaders because the 49ers cheerleaders were upset about being paid a certain amount and stuff. And doing things like this. The Cowboys with doing the calendars and stuff like that, and not getting the proper pay. The Raiders as well. And so this could be tied all together too with some of this. And you forget that they all talk to each other. That's how this got found out with Roger Goodell and stuff like that too. So I wonder what other teams might be implicated in this whole situation, and if that in turn turns into some of them looking to sell too as well, before they get their reputation gets tarnished.
And I just want to touch on the cheerleader thing. Why do we have cheerleaders?
I don't know either. If people want to try to say tradition, I'm tired of people putting tradition as part of a reason to do something still. If you can find a smarter, more efficient way, or even to spend your money, and you can take tradition out of it, just take it out of it. Then what's the point of tradition if you're going to do it?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, they're nice to look at, and they dance around and everything. But here's the problem: what's the end game with cheerleaders? Like, I understand in the off season they go around, they do charity work and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're representatives of the
at the
teams,
games.
but
I'm there to watch the game, and you have the halftime show, and the cheerleaders come out and they do their whole dance and everything, and then they're off to the sidelines, and the rest of the game they do their dances when they score or whatever. But honestly, it's just an added expense for the owners. Like I'm waiting for when no teams have cheerleaders. I don't understand why they have them. That's all.
I don't get why they have them in any sport, tell you the truth, though, too. Because if you even think about it, and no offense to the Albany Empire and the Empresses that they have there, too, it's like the dance routine. I'm not looking to, every, within the breaks that they do to see their dance routine and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of things that they do way more athletic than I am, and I couldn't even do the splits and the jumps and everything else that they do. God bless them, But, yeah, I mean, I don't really care to see them that either. I'm looking there for the game.
I'm there for the game, yeah.
But who knows? Again, maybe it is all just tradition. Who knows? And they are acting, though, as representatives of the team.
Right.
Because they have gone to, I know the Albany Empire themselves have just showed up last week, I think, for an event for an autograph signing for the Special Olympics, and they were there as representatives for the Albany Empire, which is a good thing, too, as well. And again, maybe they put it out there as somebody. Well, they're nice to look at. There they are. And you could be a nice representative for the franchise. But I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But maybe they will eventually move on from it.
Save your money.
Yeah,
don't
definitely. But with Mike Tackett bringing up that it's June 1st again, in 99 days to the whole thing. That reminds me, that's the league year now. The June 1st money has come off the books. Taking a look quick at the salary cap space, the Browns now at $40 million cap space right there at the top.
Yeah.
Then it's the Panthers at $25 million. Then your Vegas Raiders with $22.5, and then the Cowboys. Holy moly, this is dangerous right here. Dangerous turf for teams like mine that just suck, and they still are in the hole with money. It just sucks. Like, what the hell, dude? We're way down here with issues. And then you've got the Browns, who they just went out and got Deshaun Watson and things like that. And then they locked in David Njoku. Before our show, we talked about how much they had paid him, but we'll get that in a little bit. But then the Panthers, who are young, still up and coming, still have money to spend. And then your Raiders with the new head coach and McDaniels, and then the additions that they've made this year are pretty scary. And then to still have this cap space, and they can lock in some of these other guys. We talked about Darren Waller about getting that new contract and things like that. They have some room to work with some of these guys.
I think as far as the Raiders go, I think they're going to do two things. And it's something that they should do, is they're going to lock down guys like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. Those are two big weapons for them that they need to keep on that football team. And I don't know how much after they do those type of contracts, those deals, how much is going to be left over. But whatever is left over, if there's enough to go and get one of these said free agents that are still out there, still can play, and maybe they use that little bit of extra money to sign one more free agent before we get into training camp.
Yeah.
And just like you mentioned, the Panthers, they're second in terms of cap space. They're another team that's young, up and coming, but they could still add some more talent maybe. Maybe they go out and they get like a Trey Flowers maybe to add him to the D-line, for that team or something like that. So there's a lot of different things that they can do. And then the Browns, Jesus Christopher, $40 million still under the cap, even after Deshaun Watson's contract on there, even after them signing some free agents, even after the draft and signing all their draftees. So they're in great shape right now, and they could even add even more firepower if they wish before training camp.
Absolutely. We got Robert Wilsey in the house with us tonight. Baldy. Wow, man. He's supposed to be calling you out, Joe.
Baldy, really?
He's calling Joe out.
Calling me, Rob? You calling on me?
There he is. Here you go. There's Joe right there. See?
I don't know if you know who you're talking to. don't talk to me like that. All right?
Oh, nice. Awesome. Hey, you want to talk about
what's going on, Rob?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's give a shout out to our sponsors out there, Mohawk Honda. Again, I get to see these guys every day when I drive by there. Freeman's Bridge Road. If you haven't yet, you're around the area, you're just looking for a car. Hondas are awesome. I drive one myself. I get great mileage, and then also it never really breaks down on me. It rusts
they
a little
last
bit, but
forever.
It's great. They last forever, dude. So Mohawk Honda, they go out of their way to please you. You got guys like Let's Do a Deal, Cam McKenna there, just going to get you in the car that you want, the one that you deserve. And then also if you have a car you're looking to get rid of, right now they're doing the Kelly Blue Book instant cash offer too, where they'll give you whatever Kelly Blue Book says it's worth, boom, they'll write you a check right there. You can walk away with it, with the money, or put it down on a brand new Mohawk Honda. I'm going to be going there checking out the new CRVs, Joe. I'm looking to get a CRV change up from my minivan. So I'm going to be talking to my man Cam down there too as well. So you guys will see me with my new ride. I'll post it up on our thing and show it, hashtag all about it with Mohawk Honda. So check them out, MohawkHonda.com, to schedule your test drive or check out how much you can get for your trade-in. You can do it all right there. Nice. Or go to Freeman's Bridge Road right there.
Nice.
In Scotia Glenville.
So you're going CRV, huh?
Yeah, I think so. It's in between a Pilot and a like a CRV type of deal. So I want something that still I could do like a sports U, but not super massive and stuff like and they do what Mohawk Honda does. Put me in the car that I think I deserved. I want to be able to roll around in and drive and look nice, but one that I think I can make the payments to as well too. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not exactly rich all the time for doing our show. So, but all right. So hey, last week we started off doing the. Our stock up and down for the NFC. So after the draft, again, after some of the free agent moves that they've done, so we take a look at the teams and say, since the moves that they've done here, the draft and then free agency, where is their stock laying before now OTAs are just starting in the preseason? So we're gonna roll through the AFC now. Let's start off with the AFC East.
We're going to Wall Street on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at the Buffalo Bills first here, Joe, and let's see about their stock. Let's
take a look at their stock here. So a couple things changed from the Buffalo Bills from last year. You know what I mean? They still have Stephon Diggs, their go-to guy, but they kind of revamped their offensive line a little bit. Maybe upgrade their value there. You still got Josh Allen at the helm, holding it down. Devin Singletary returns. James Cook, which was an interesting draft pick that they had in the second round, to team him up with Singletary. Now it looks almost like a little bit of a crowded backfield with Zach Moss and Duke Johnson and all these different types of backs there. Look for them to kind of have like a rotational backfield there. And then defensively, they were rock solid last year. They're going to be rock solid again with some new faces. Kyer Elam coming right out of the draft, first-round pick for them, to team him up with Tre'Davious White. Now it looks like they got both sides locked down. As long as Kyer Elam pans out the way everybody is portraying him to pay off here, it looks like they got two lockdown corners coming into the season, and none other than two of the best duos at safety, and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. What can you ask for more there? Very tenacious pass rush. They also added Von Miller to this group. So this is a team that is utilizing a 4-2-5 defensive scheme that they're going to look at to get after the quarterback, stop the run, and force teams to throw it to their secondary. So I like what they have going on here. Listen, they were close last year. They just got beat up a little bit towards the end, and then I look for the Bills. Bills are trending upward still. They're not trending downward at all. They're trending upward for me. Stock's up.
Stock is up.
Buy now.
And
sell.
It's got to be. Again, because you see the progression, Joe. You see the progression of what's happened since Josh Allen came into the league and what this team has done. The first year, a little bumpy road. Still has that strong arm, and he had some of the dismissed throws. Didn't really have a lot of weapons. Then they started to get other weapons. Stephon Diggs shows up. They really connect together, and then they go further, make the playoffs. Then last year, they go all the way up to the championship game. Almost a championship game. The game right before that, where they play the Chiefs and lose into overtime. So they get so close. They're getting closer and closer every season. So now this year we're only expecting them to go even further. And now with the addition of Jamison Crowder, like you said, and then the other additions that they've made, this is the time for them to make a move. And the times can't even be brighter here. But you've got the other teams in this division here making some big moves as well and really hanging on and nipping at their heels. And I'm talking to you about the Miami Dolphins as one of them as well. So what do you think about the Dolphins and their stock?
And they got a new regime now. All new coaching staff. Mike McDaniel is your head coach. Got former offensive coordinator of the 49ers, so he comes over. And you got to expect that it's going to be a similar offense to what the 49ers run. So you might see a lot of jet sweeps. You might see some wide receiver screens, some RPOs, some play action, all grouped together with a young, star-studded type of receivers that they got at their disposal. Like, listen, Jalen Waddle went off the chain last season. Like, as a rookie, really was productive, was heavily involved in the offense. And they also consummated a trade for Tyreek Hill coming over from the Chiefs. They got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together. Are you serious? And then to further bolster this receiving core, they go ahead and they sign free agent Dallas Cowboy Cedric Wilson. So all of these guys are still young. All of them are going to contribute heavily this season. And don't forget their little Swiss Army knife in Lynn Bowden Jr., who, before he got injured last year, started to look pretty good for them. He could run the ball. He could go out in the slot and catch the ball as a receiver. So there's a lot to like with this team. And there's that big question mark about Tua. When are we going to get, any kind of an answer? Is he going to be the franchise quarterback or not? This has got to be his prove-it year. He's had a lot of speculation aimed towards him, and now maybe he could answer all those questions this season with a really good receiving core and a offensive line that is strengthened much more this year. They like Liam Eckenberg, who they took in 2 years ago. He's going to end up locking in that right tackle spot. Teron Armstead, one of the biggest signings this free agency for the Dolphins. Now they have a true left tackle. So there's a lot of praise going on for Miami, but it looks great on paper. You got to put it on the football field and get it going. So there's a few different things that they got to work on. And then defensively, they got a really good secondary, and I feel like they're going to have a decent pass rush to go along with it. So overall, I'm going to say that stock is going up. It's trending upwards. It might not be up as high as Buffalo, but they are definitely on the right track, I think.
All right, Mike Tackett poses the question here, Joe, and getting back to Buffalo. How many window years does Buffalo have? Sooner than later, they'll be in the same situation as KC was this year. And look how even KC finished, though, even this past season. I mean, they looked a little bumpy here and there, but and now, yes, if you talk about the situation to where now Tyreek Hill, if you're talking about him moving to Miami now, how are they going to look this year? They don't have Tyrann Mathieu on the back end too, and that defense, has some more holes too. So that would be interesting to see how they look this year. Buffalo, they only have about $5.5 million in cap space this year right now before making some cuts here and things that they might have to do in the offseason as well. So, yeah, that window is getting shorter. So I think it is kind of win now. But I think as you go on in the next couple of years, you've seen the way these GMs now have really worked these contracts with the dual, all that bonus money up front, kind of under the books, that kind of void years with guaranteed money. They're going to finagle something to probably rework Josh Allen's type of contract to get him maybe a long-term deal that's not as hurtful to the books, and try and still lock in some other key weapons for them to keep this thing rolling.
Honestly, for the Buffalo Bills, they're still young. And I don't think there's no real close window. Like when we used to talk about Minnesota Vikings when they got Kirk Cousins after a couple of seasons, and like, well, how big of a window do they have? Well, they had a big, huge contract for him, so Andy was older. This is a Buffalo team that is young, that can still play together for at least another 4 to 5 years before maybe they really have to, buckle down and try to figure out financially how many guys they could keep together. So they have a bigger window than some people may think because of how young their team is and how they're still growing together. And obviously they're going to keep upgrading and developing this roster every offseason as it goes for the draft and what have you. So I don't think it's a very close window at all. I think it's at least 5 years minimum, and then it could go as long as 7. So they got plenty of time to hopefully get that, ever elusive Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. They better get it. No, that's the thing. All right. So, yeah, getting back to the Miami Dolphins again, if I'm taking a look at this too, like you said, when you're bringing in Mike McDaniel, you see a lot of him or that 49ers type of offense into this roster right now. The addition of the running backs. That's the one thing they were missing last year. I'm waiting for Myles Gaskins to rip one off last year, and we used to see him be able to get that the catching yards, but then also the running yards at the top of it. And you didn't see a whole lot of that last year. Now you've got this like three-headed monster to where now Myles Gaskin has moved further down in the depth chart. And you probably will see him onto a different team pretty soon, I think, the way this is rolls, unless, again, these guys, the way if you look at the guys that are here, though, injuries have been plaguing these guys a lot, though. So he might just keep them all, and they'll just spell in and out, and injuries might come into play with this team. But definitely. A lot of new weapons. I like what he's doing with the offense. It should alleviate some of the issues. Again, like if you've got a good strong running game here, that will only help Tua and keep some of the pressure off of them. So teams are just saying, we'll pin our ears back and just try and pressure Tua to force him into a mistake. So like you said, I'm kind of big on this team. They look up and coming, like they got really pushed hard to force Buffalo's hand here. While look at the Patriots, I think they're vulnerable right now. So I think Miami has now shown that they could be number 2 in this division, but maybe make that push and force Buffalo's hand.
It's possible. And as far as the running backs go, I feel like they're going to keep them all. I think they're definitely going to keep 3, maybe 4, because if you remember where he's coming from is the 49ers, and they love running backs. Mm-hmm. They constantly draft them, they sign them, and they had a bunch of them, like 4 or 5 even on the roster. So definitely utilize. It's going to be kind of similar, like we were discussing, to the offense of the Niners. Might be a little tweaked, a little bit different, the way Mike McDaniels wants to see it on the football field. But all in all, he's going to keep the talent. You know what I mean? So if they got a talented running back, 2, 3, even 4 deep, they're going to keep them all, and they're going to utilize them all, because in the NFL today, that's the reason why running backs are so undervalued, is because injuries occur way more often at that position. Sometimes guys, even contractually, they just can't. They want more money, but teams are only willing to pay so much, so then they see their way out, and they bring in the next guy. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to keep it together.
All right, Mike Tackett says, Miami is making moves. Much like the Jets, I think their success will be that of their quarterback production. Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't that said for any team? Your team is only going to – that's the most important position on the football field. And if you have a really good quarterback, you don't even have to have an elite quarterback. But if you have a really good quarterback, above average type of quarterback, that can really make the difference between winning and losing.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the quarterbacks now? Let's talk about the New England Patriots and
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. They've shown here now. He said, "I'm physically in the best shape of my life right now." He's even trimmed down a little bit there too.
Yep.
And
lost that baby
and there's
weight.
been some footage out there of him scrambling a little bit. Doesn't look as weird looking, but still, you can see he's even not exactly like Tom Brady. Still, he doesn't run like a gazelle in the way that Tom Brady kind of looks, kind of awkward running. He still looks a little better than that. And it's not that he's like super duper just can't run at all. It's just that he's not that type of mobile type of guy, but he fits that offense of what they were doing last year. And I think this year is just another year where he can excel in this offense, even with some of the additions, like they have Devontae Parker now there, which they've got from Miami. That would be a nice weapon that he can have, to beat some people over the top that they didn't have before.
Yeah, and you team him up with guys like Kendrick Bourne, who was kind of underutilized last season, I feel like. Jacoby Myers was the most used. And Nelson Aguilar, there's still reports out there of them. Patriots might want to move on from him, whether that be even flat out cutting him or trying to find a suitor, maybe a trade for a draft pick. But they also drafted a guy, and this was one of the more perplexing things that the Patriots did this offseason, is the way they drafted this year was very, uncharacteristic of them. They did it to the outsiders looking in, or to even some of the draft experts were saying, "Wow, that's a little reach there in on that pick." Cole Strange, the guy that's going to play right guard for them, in the first round, a lot of people said no, second or third round. Taekwon Thornton, a guy who was blistering fast, super fast, but still struggles with route running and has inconsistent hands. He was drafted in the second round. So it's like they were making picks, and I'm not sure if Bill wasn't, involved, Bill Belichick, or if, what's going on. But there's a lot of perplexing decisions that is being made by the Patriots right now. And defensively, Bill Belichick is still there. So I'm just going to say he's going to have this thing all ironed out. Defensively, they're going to be just fine. They did pick up Jalen Mills, returning back for another season with the Patriots. Adrian Phillips, and it seems like they got a lot of veterans, right? Malcolm Butler returns. Who knows who's going to win that job, if he actually will or not. And then other than that, it's pretty much the same front seven. A lot of youth infused there. Donta Hightower's no longer there, but they got the next man up, Juwan Bentley, to take over. So I feel more comfortable with the defensive side than I do the offense, because Josh McDaniels is no longer calling plays. Who the hell is calling plays? Because they brought back two defensive guys to coach offense. Joe Judge, Matt Patricia. They returned. They're coaching offense for some reason. So there's a lot of confusing decisions Patriots have done, and because of that, I'm down on the Patriots this season. Their stock is down in my eyes.
Okay, yeah, and if you talk about the additions that they had, some things that I've heard even coming out of camp right now is Jack Jones, the guy that they grabbed in the 4th round. He's impressing them right now, and they said there's potential that he could slide into one of those corner positions, whether it be even if Malcolm Butler doesn't pan out, if he really has lost everything that he's lost a step here, not been able to perform like he did previous when he was with them. So look for that to move on with these guys. And like you said, missing some of those guys to get really that pressure that they won't have this year. We liked Dietrich Wise. He was kind of those under the radar type of guys that would be able to mix in with this defense. And Lawrence Guy has been a nice guy for them too as well. But without the Donta Hightowers, without the Kyle Van Noys in this defense, who's going to be that guy that's going to step up besides Matthew Judon all the time? Because we saw him light it up last year too and really show what he could do and why they went and grabbed him. But, who else is going to be the guy that's going to step up on this defense to help them out? What does Mike Tackett says now here too? Oh, he says Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco both won Super Bowl, so we're talking about the quarterback situation.
Yep.
That would always be brought up, I guess, though, too. So, yeah, they both did. And then he says, rumor is Mohawk Honda will be calling plays in New England. Nice. I like it. Imagine that. That would be cool. I wouldn't mind that, and see what they do. They help people out here, so maybe they could help New England now, too, as well. All right, so let's move on and talk about the quarterbacks again and maturing. Let's take a look at the New York Jets. They made the moves, in the draft too. So their stock, I think, is up right now for me because last year, again, we didn't expect a whole lot. Wonder where you're going to get out of Zach Wilson. He had his ups. He also had his downs. We got to see Mosley finally play for a while and not just be injured and sit out, but. Again, trying to figure out what's going on with this type of offense. When will they be able to get the defensive players they wanted to run this Robert Saleh defense too as well? They nailed everything on the head, I think, in the draft here for the spots, positions that they need, plus quality as well. So it is all in kind of like Zach Wilson's hands. Here it is, all on your lap. Now take us there, son. Let's see if we can move on. And I think they have the opportunity to get some key wins here.
And this is the thing too, is like last season, we already knew they were in rebuilding, right? We already knew they were rebuilding. We didn't expect too much from the Jets. Didn't expect too much from Zach Wilson. And the interesting thing is what they're doing as of last year. We saw them try to upgrade some spots, and they made some good decisions, and it paid off. But now we're going into another offseason, now coming out of their second offseason with this kind of revamped roster with Zach Wilson at the helm. Now, listen, he was banged up last year a little bit. He returned late last season and started to show something. We started to see possibly the makings of where the game slowed down for Zach Wilson. Hopefully that continues into this training camp and into week 1 for the Jets. But they added some big-time talent via draft. They drafted the number 1 receiver in my eyes, Garrett Wilson, who's going to really help out Zach Wilson to team him up with guys like Corey Davis that started to come on for them. And Elijah Moore, also a rookie in 21. He came on late in the season, and it seems like if Garrett Wilson can kind of play catch-up with this playbook, they might have themselves a really nice receiving core to finally where Zach Wilson can throw to just about everybody on the football field. Tight end-wise, that was a big issue. You know what I mean? They didn't have a tight end. And now you bring in C.J. Uzomah, formerly of the Bengals, to kind of lock down that position. But I will also say this. They got themselves a stud in the third round in Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. This kid is legit. He is going to push for playing time this year. No doubt about it. And then if you wanted to, double tight end sets, you might have yourself some advantages going over the middle right there. Not to mention, they also added another player in the second round by Breece Hall. Some people viewed him as the number one running back coming out. I had him as the second, but Breece Hall is a stud. So you team him up with guys like Michael Carter, who they drafted 2 years ago, and now you've got two young players on that offensive side, along with this upgraded offensive line that looks a lot stronger now than last year. Last year was improved. Now it looks a lot stronger. So this offense, I know it's on paper, but this offense looks like it's in way better shape now and ready to maybe put some points on the board.
All right, so I'm thinking that you are very high on this stock.
I will just have to say this. I got to point out the defense. They get the number one corner, projected as the number one corner, Sauce Gardner, out of the first round, which is a much-needed position, to also add in Jordan Whitehead from the Buccaneers. They made some big changes on the defense. I don't think Robert Saleh's defense is finished just yet. I think it's going to take another offseason until he gets it exactly the way he wants it. But also ended up adding in the first round as well, Jermaine Johnson, when they traded back up and they got Jermaine Johnson, another big-time pass rusher. So, all in all, yes, I am. I think the Jets are trending upwards. They're making good decisions, and they're on their way to maybe even being in third place this year.
Here, Mike Tackett says, got to see Ruckert play in Columbus. He's massive and a lot more athletic than you'd think. Reminds me of George Kittle.
Yeah, right on, buddy.
Man, dangerous right there. Dangerous.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about dangerous, so let me tell you about my friends at Buck Environmental Solutions. They're not dangerous, but you know what? The ticks are and all the bugs, like that. And, dude, mosquitoes, I hate mosquitoes. But you know what? I give my man James Buck just a ring, or you can check him out at buckenvironmentalsolutions.com. Call him up. He'll spray your yard for you. He's got all the stuff that's good for your, it's not going to hurt your pets, not going to hurt your children, stuff like that. Get rid of the ticks and bugs. I do it every single year. I call my man James up. He hooks me up down there, takes care of it, and I can roll around in the grass nude all I want, and I will not get a single tick bite, dude. It is amazing. So if you haven't yet, go to buckenvironmentalsolutions.com, or you can also call them at 845-665-1950. Buck Environmental Solutions, good friends of the show, sponsor from the early days. We love Buck Environmental Solutions. All right, so now moving on to the next division here in the AFC. Here we've got the Baltimore Ravens now, Joe. The Baltimore Ravens, a lot of the analysts and things like that, people are high on the moves. I mean, you love the Tyler Linderbaum move that they made in the draft here too. But again, with the trades that they've had, looking at their wide receiving core here, the fact that they don't have the same defensive coordinator anymore, what kind of changes will that affect this defense here? And with this division, despite I think the Steelers taking a tick back, you've got the Bengals in it, and the Browns now with the Deshaun Watson. How many weeks will he possibly get suspended for? Nipping on your heels now too. I'm really worried about this Ravens team, because even last year you saw they were just kind of an up and down team. Like, they were one of those stocks you wanted to stay away from, just because you didn't know what team you were getting. You saw a team like Miami with Tua there, and then also Brissett there. Also, they beat them, straight up. So they were playing down to teams that they should have beat, and then they played up to some of the teams that you thought would be kind of a little closer and stuff. So they're an up and down team, not sure what to expect out of them. And here coming into this season, I think there's just a bigger question mark for me. So right now, for me, I'm not buying the Ravens here. I'm just gonna be just chilling on this whole thing. Leave them out there.
With the Ravens, they're going through a
Hold
little
on,
bit of
real
a
quick before you get into it. Mike Tackler just says the Ravens will be in a battle with Cleveland for second place in the AFC North. Can Lamar stay healthy?
I mean, that's a big deal, but I mean, can anybody stay healthy?
Can anybody stay healthy?
This is a Baltimore Ravens team that was injured as a team last year. They were pretty banged up, offensive line-wise, defensively. You had a lot of aging players that were also getting hurt. Calais Campbell was playing hurt most of the season, so now those guys, a lot of those vets are gone, and they had to find a way to fill those holes. They ended up infusing with some. They had a really good draft. I mean, one of the best drafts in the league, mind you. Listen, they had a potential tackle in Daniel Falele, who I was extremely high on. He's going to be backing up at this point until he gets his bearings. Maybe push for that. Tyler Linderbaum, like Jim was mentioning earlier, best center coming out. Very similar to like a Jason Kelsey type of guy. So look for him to be there for the next 10 years. And then beyond that, their defense needed an infusion of youth. They end up picking up in the second round David Ajabo, who before his injury at his pro day would have been a first-round pick hands down. Kyle Hamilton, who was their first-round pick, ended up sliding down the board farther than people anticipated. But he went to the perfect team, the perfect defense. Kyle Hamilton is going to fit right in there. And then after that, they have some of their younger players that all took a step up in the depth chart that are going to look to contribute. They did manage to bring back Calais Campbell for yet another season with them. But overall, this team not only got younger, but I feel like it got better. For some of the guys that ended up leaving, it was that time. And offensively, I'm not worried about them. Like Mike was saying in the comments, like, can Lamar stay healthy? And that's going to be the key because he's their quarterback. Even though they are a run-heavy type of offense, he's the guy that makes this offense go. And without him, they're not going anywhere. So I know that Hollywood Brown, they ended up trading him away. And people like freaking out because, you traded away, Hollywood Brown. Why would you do that? But they also had two other younger receivers coming in waiting, Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay. So all in all, I'm not worried about this team as much as some other people are. I feel like they're going to be chasing for this division. I still think they're going to be competitive. I still have them tracking upward.
All right. Moving on to now the Cincinnati Bengals, the AFC champions here. Again, right now their stock can't even be higher, which coming off a phenomenal season here, really surprising a lot of people, and especially with Joe Burrow coming off of that injury the season prior, and then be able to perform and get that also that wide receiver that he needed, and it being Jamar Chase, former teammate as well for him for LSU. I mean, they just fit like a hand into a glove. It was amazing here for them. And Joe Mixon again. I mean, you got to see him bounce back that last season too, because we've had his other seasons where he's kind of been banged up and down. Yep. So this team, I think, looking really good still too. Solid, not a whole lot of changes turning around here. So I think, all in all, they're going to make another push this season, and the stock can't be higher.
So we've seen what they could do last year. Made it all the way to the Super Bowl. They were right there, and they just couldn't get the job done. But most of it was a lot of people leading up to that big game was they were like, well, how is the Bengals going to be able to handle it up front? Are they going to be able to protect Joe Burrow? And that was the biggest weakness on the team. They had receivers. They had their running back. They had their defense, which played really well. But that protection, that offensive line that needed to open up rushing lanes against a stout front seven, that was the biggest weakness. So their stock from last year, to me, this year is going through the roof. It's going way up because they addressed that big-time need. They went out and grabbed big-time upgrades for this offensive line. The right side was a sieve, was absolutely terrible. And they bring in none other than Ted Karras from New England. They bring in Alex Kappa, formerly of the Buccaneers. These are all guys that are all-pro potential, or were former all-pros. And then at right tackle from the Cowboys, La'el Collins. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they addressed those big-time needs for up front for protection, for opening up rushing lanes, and they are ready to go back to work, go back to the battlefield, and take on the rest of the NFL. They are a young team. They got young Joe Burrow. They got a young receiving core, and they got a stout offensive line now. This offense right now is even going to be even better than last year's offense for the Bengals. Defensively, they went out and they grabbed a couple of different guys to fill in holes. And that's what you do in the offseason. Any kind of little bit of a hole, you go out and you bring in someone that has the potential of maybe pushing the other starter in front of them. So defensively, think they're going to be just fine. And then offensively, they got even better. So this Bengals team is very dangerous. Their stock is skyrocketing.
All right, moving on now to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, we just found out, too, with the news breaking about Stephon Tuitt retiring now after only 7 seasons here in the NFL. So they are going to go this season without him. But they did grab Miles Jack over in the offseason, so too, to match him up with T.J. Watt and Devin Bush. And you've got Cameron Hayward there still. So still a lot of good weapons here. And don't forget what a difference maker I think Minka Fitzpatrick has been since they did that trade. So I think they'll still be all right on defense. But the offensive situation here is really what are we going to see with Mitchell Trubisky and what is going to go on with him, and is he going to be able to get it to some of these guys like Chase Claypool over to the top, Deontay drops Johnson, stuff like that. And then how fast, if he does struggle, are we going to see Kenny Pickett jump into the mix here? Guy, again, Joe's had questions about with his hand size, always wearing gloves, and then with the weather that you do get in Pittsburgh. So for me, stock's got to be pretty low for this team. So I'm not expecting a whole lot this season. Chris Simpson is in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, Chris?
He said, "What's up, fellas? Let's go Rangers." Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah, let's do it.
Go Rangers.
Yeah. Here we go. So let's hope. I'm not a diehard Rangers fan, but I do support the Rangers, the local New York team for hockey and stuff like that. So let's go and see how far they can make it. I don't want to see the Tampa Bay Lightning make it and stuff. So
that's a tough matchup.
Yeah,
too.
it is,
Real
dude.
tough.
They've had an uphill battle this whole time. So what's Mike Tackett's question here? He has a
he doesn't have a question.
YouTube. What is it?
It's a statement.
Oh, is it?
Pickett will be starting by week 8 for Pittsburgh.
Oh, no. I saw one here on YouTube, but we'll have to check it in a little bit. Yeah. All right, Chris Simpson up 4-2 right now. Yes, that's good. Yeah, we're not able to watch the game sometimes when we're doing our show, but that's awesome.
Grind for the
keep us up with the updates then, buddy.
Yeah,
let us know on the updates. But about the secondary, I think he's talking about with the Steelers here. But again, for me, stock's got to be low with this team. Mitch Trubisky, I liked what he did with Chicago at times. It seems like he's better on the run, bootlegging out away from that pressure.
Right.
I think when he tries to stay in the pocket and be that upright type of quarterback to gun it out here, I don't think he sees his reads quick enough. So when he bootlegs out, gives him a little more time, and it ends up opening up a little bit because the play's kind of broken down or just developing further on, getting open in some of those deeper routes.
So for the Steelers, with Mitch Trubisky, it's the first time the Steelers have a quarterback like him, a guy that has the mobility, a guy that they would love to work in play action and RPOs of that nature. So look for the Steeler team offensively to be a little bit different than what you're accustomed to seeing. They are still going to run the football, no doubt about it. But the offense, as far as the passing game goes, as far as option plays are involved, like they're going to be more prominent now for this season with Trubisky looking to take over this starting job. I like what they have in Chase Claypool and George Pickens, the rookie that they drafted this year in the second round. I love him. I think he could develop into a number 1 receiver. However, the one question remains: what did you do to upgrade the offensive line? And the answer to that question is nothing. The only big time signing that they had was from Chicago, James Daniels, who is a all-pro type of guard. But other than that, I don't know if you did enough. So this team is going through a little bit of kind of like not necessarily a rebuild, because it almost looks like they're still trying to win now, but I just don't think they have the firepower to do so. Defensively, a little bit of a change. They bring over Miles Jack to team him up with Devin Bush, to team him up with Alex Highsmith, who was starting to come on strong last year. And Stephon Tuitt is no longer there, but it's okay. You want to know why? And I thought this was a bigger loss than what it actually turns out to be. Is they drafted in the third round DeMarvin Leal, who I think is going to fit really nicely there. I feel it's going to be between Chris Wormley from Baltimore and DeMarvin Leal, the rookie, that are going to fight for that DN job. But all in all, I think this defense is going to still be strong. It's still going to be the strong point of this team, and that's what's going to help them stay in games. Do I think it's going to keep them staying in games long enough? I think that's where they're going to struggle a little bit. Is offensively, they might not be able to put up points as much as they used to. And that whole ground and pound type of offense that they like to run might take too much time off the clock.
Yeah, I just saw that Mike here too again.
To me, this is a little bit of a downward trend.
So since he trades away Jesse Bates, can the Bengals still be competitive in the secondary was the question that he had.
Yes. Jesse Bates, don't get me wrong, is a really good safety. But as far as defensively, one guy doesn't make that whole entire defense. Yes, he's very important to them, but I feel like they're going to prepare for that. So if that does come to fruition, where they are going to in fact trade Jesse Bates, they're going to bring in another veteran. You know what I mean? They're going to bring somebody in to replace him, even if it's short notice. It might take some time for whatever vet that is to come in and maybe learn a little bit more of the defense to get acclimated, but I feel like they are already going to have a game plan for that. So if that does happen and Bates does have to leave and get traded away or what have you, the Bengals are already going to have a plan after Jesse Bates.
Yeah, he says here he thinks with the wide receivers at Miami, KC, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and New England, they all test since he's back five. We'll see what happens when
here's
the
the
season gets
interesting
started.
thing about that is those offenses that you mentioned, they don't attack deep down the field too often. Very rarely. Miami doesn't really normally attack deep down the field. They, especially with this new offense coming in, it's going to be a lot of short, quick, get the ball out fast, and let the receivers do the damage afterwards. Same thing with New England. They do a lot of short stuff, intermediate stuff, get the ball out, let the receivers do the damage. So Jets probably, if they ever go up against them, like if you're going from that division, then maybe they might attack deep, but that's going to be the interesting part of it all.
All right, moving on now. Let's go to the Houston Texans here. Again, they're in full-on rebuild mode with what they've got going on here, too. So still have Brandon Cooks there, too. They do draft John Mechie in the second round this season.
Did we do the Browns?
This draft. Did we do the Browns? We might have moved on for the Browns. I might have skipped the Browns.
I think we skipped them.
Oh, I guess I'll go to the Browns then, I guess. Let's go back to the Browns. All right, yeah, I guess we'll cover them if we have to. I think my draft stock's pretty high.
Real quick, Cleveland Browns are tracking upwards. In that division. As long as Deshaun Watson is there for them, even if he's serving, I don't know, a 2-game suspension or a 4-game suspension, we don't even know if he's going to have a suspension because still that civil court case hasn't concluded yet. And I think that's what the NFL is waiting for, is what happens with that civil court case. Do they end up in an agreement to just seesaw here, I'll just pay you some money and then we'll be done with it? Or are they going to push it to, who knows? But all in all, it's all depending on Deshaun Watson, really. That's your quarterback. That's the guy. They have a very good core defensively and offensively. That backfield of theirs is like stealthy. So they're the best team on paper, basically. On paper, they're the best team in that division. But will they prove it is a whole different story. But they are definitely tracking upwards for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the quarterback, to get them over the hump, that's the reason why they made the trade and what they're doing with the Texans. So let's see what happens. But yeah, I think the stock's got to be super high right now with the talent that they have.
Amari Cooper is now a Cleveland Brown. That's their guy.
All right, so looking at the team that's also I think the stock has got to be super low right now at this point because the way just where they are, they've kind of dug themselves in that hole with not having the draft space that they've been able to do, keep the weapons that they used to have, not be able to keep Deshaun Watson with the issues that was going on with them too as well, and his anger with the franchise and not being able to help him out before, and then now with the masseuse thing. Moving on. They're high on this Davis Mills, and I think he's played pretty well despite being an underlooked type of wide receiver or quarterback here. So, and then also some of the picks that they got, we're getting Derek Stingley Jr. I think that was premature here too. That was like the pick that people were like seriously like, wow, that's who they grabbed here at this point when there was other guys out there still. Sauce Gardner was still out there, and Stingley Jr. You heard about it right up until like the eve of the draft that. Lovie Smith was super high on this guy, so he goes and grabs him there. They help out the offensive line and getting Kenyon Green here in the first round too as well, and they've got Jalen Petrie in the second to help out that secondary. But this team still, no matter what though, is still in that rebuild mode. So I don't think they're going to be doing anything special this year. Still in the back end of this division, and really, if you look at this division, they're the weakest division I think in this AFC altogether.
Yeah, and that very well could be. But I think the Texans, listen, they surprised us last year. And even what they had a terrible offensive line. They had Davis Mills last year as a rookie. And when he came in to start, he actually surprised a hell of a lot of people. And the big thing for him coming in was injuries. Coming from college, that was he was known for getting injured all the time. And so people were kind of wondering. There was no question about his quarterback, capability and his attributes that he had. Everybody loved that portion of him, but the injury bug, he always sustained it over and over and over in college. But man, I was surprised that when he came into the NFL, it almost like he's a different person now. He does not get injured. He delivers. I mean, this is a guy that was underrated coming into the NFL. That I was like, if this kid could stay healthy, then he's going to make a difference. And the Texans proved and pushed all the chips to the center of the table and said, we are confident in you, Davis. Because why? They did not even draft a quarterback in this past draft. And that shows a ton of confidence in them. That means that they really do believe that Davis Mills can be their franchise quarterback going forward. And that's got to be great for Davis right now. They end up grabbing a couple of guys, just like Jim mentioned, a couple of young rookies that are coming. Hopefully they can push and they make a difference here. Their offensive line is better than last year, bringing in A.J. Cann, bringing in Titus Howard. They have all those guys in place right now. Defensively, that's where it's going to be interesting. I feel like offensively they got a little bit better, and they're going to be able to put points up on the board. But as far as defensive goes, that's where it's going to be a little bit different. Derek Stingley Jr. Now, if you're getting the guy from 3 years ago, you're getting the pick was worth it. You're getting an absolute stud. He's the best corner coming out. But if you're getting the guy a year ago, guy that was injured a lot, a guy that didn't really do much. 2 years ago, not productive. So if he comes back with a chip on his shoulder and you're getting that guy from 3 years ago, then that pick is worth it. If not, it was a failed pick. Other than that defense is going through a big-time rebuild. And because of that, they're downward for me. As far as their stock, it's going down because they are in rebuild. And this is not a light rebuild. This is a heavy rebuild. They just figured out who their quarterback is. They just figured out, what the receivers are going to look like. Defensively has to go through a big change. So until they find all the pieces on this board here for them, they're not going to get any better right now. So they're downward.
All right, moving on now to the Indianapolis Colts. Again, move on from the Carson Wentz situation pretty quickly, Joe, right? They thought this was the guy, that new Frank Reich's offense here and was going to help get them to that next level. But you saw what happened when the pressure was on in a game that they needed. He was just turnover central here for them. And despite having such a great running game here and Jonathan Taylor getting it done for him, still not able to do it here. So now they go and get that trade to get Matt Ryan here. And also they add a few different running backs here to help out the running back situation here behind Jonathan Taylor. But then also on the defensive side, they go and get Stephon Gilmore, who was a free agent chilling out there. They get the trade with the Vegas Raiders to get Yannick Ngakoue. And now this defense is really looking pretty solid here, too, as well, on top of the guys that they've already had there with DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, things like that, Darius Leonard. So this team right now, they're trying to make that push at a Tennessee team to where I think Tennessee finally, might start trending backwards a little bit here. I've been waiting for their downfall, but they still surprise me. I think it's one great coaching and what they've been able to do here, too. Despite all the injuries that they had last year, but getting it done. But this team, they've been telling people, we're going all in. We're going to try and win here. So this shows me by getting that veteran in Matt Ryan, a guy who really doesn't turn the ball over that much, to kind of get them to that upper echelon here to push it forward. So right now, their stock can't be any higher for them right now in this division.
The biggest thing for Matt Ryan is he has a better offensive line to play behind.
Oh, than he did before, absolutely.
And that's going to pay huge dividends for the Colts because Matt Ryan is not the guy to make them run. It's not a good idea. That's where he fell into trouble with interceptions, trying to force the ball. But I think he'll be able to be fairly comfortable behind this offensive line and deliver the football. Listen, Michael Pittman Jr. coming into his second year, and he's starting to get better every single season at the receiver position. Alec Pierce, who was a draft pick this year, who I think is going to turn out to be an amazing ball player. That's a nice duo right there for the receiver grouping right there. After that, defensively, this is kind of where I have some questions. New defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, comes over from the Vegas Raiders, and this is a team where defensive line-wise, they're really solid. They're really good. Kwity Paye came on strong as a rookie last season. DeForest Buckner in the middle. Yannick Ngakoue, they end up getting to team him up with Kwity Paye, opposite side. That I love. Linebacking core is pretty solid. Secondary, I'm not really 100% sure on. And with a new defensive scheme now, with Gus Bradley coming in, it's similar to what they used to run, but it's different. Gus Bradley likes to run this bend but don't break type of defense. Almost allows offenses to go right down the football field, and then as they get closer to the end zone, it gets a little harder. I'm not a fan of that type of defense. So I think defensively they might struggle a little bit despite the really good D-line that they have. Offensively, they'll be able to put up points, I think. But defensively, I'm just not buying it 100%. I think, in actuality, this team could be high, but I'm going to say they're going to be kind of even this season. I'm not as high on them as I was last year. Even though Wentz was the quarterback, if they had Matt Ryan last year with the same coaching staff, I'd be high as a kite on this one. But to me, they're kind of even kill. The defense and Gus Bradley has to prove it to me in order for this to go up for me.
All right, moving on now to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looking at them, I think they did pretty good in the draft, especially getting Trayvon Walker right there, Devin Lloyd. But the moves that they made in the offseason, again, with the wide receivers and then shelling out the money to Christian Kirk to be in your slot receiver right now at this point. Marvin Jones still there hanging around. Laviska Shenault even shows him sliding back in the wide receiver depth chart, which is kind of funny because he's been one of those guys for them that's really kind of performed. So he might even slide back up into this spot here, but because Zay Jones here too, I'm not really hyped on either. So the additions that they made, I don't think that really helps Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's still kind of another kind of receiver core kind of mix of kind of some okay guys. I'm not, especially Evan Ingram here too, who's inconsistent. Unhealthy a lot of times, drops a lot of the bigger balls here. Trevor Lawrence still has enough to get it to them and get it done on his end, but how well are these guys going to get open and do things for them? So I think this offense is still kind of be bland, and I'm not expecting a whole lot out of these guys, especially even with the head coach that they have in Doug Peterson. I think he's already served his time in the NFL.
So the thing that I'll say about the receivers is DJ Chark was formerly the starter there. And after that, Laviska Shenault was in and out of the lineup last year. So they didn't have a consistent receiving core to be able to throw to. And that, I think, hindered, a guy like Trevor Lawrence in order for his development to even take another step forward. Now this year, they're not elite type of guys, but they're capable receivers. Zay Jones coming over from Vegas. Marvin Jones was there last year. Mm-hmm. I forgot about him.
Yep.
But Christian Kirk, they paid way too much money to be their slot guy, but still dangerous. He's definitely going to help this team out. And the thing that's perplexing a little bit for me is Laviska Shenault. Yeah, he's lower down on the depth chart, but this is a guy that they're looking to move on from. It doesn't seem like the new regime that moved in with Doug Peterson's offensive staff and stuff really like him. Or maybe he just doesn't quite fit their offense. So I know there was rumors of them trying to trade him before the draft. That didn't happen. And he might end up being a or not even a cap casualty because he's really not making that much money. But he might be a cut right before week 1. He might not make the team, possibly. So watch to see where that all falls into, because if he ends up being cut, I could just see there's going to be plenty of teams interested in him. Other than that, like you touched on Evan Ingram, I mean, there's not much to say there. I don't know how if he's going to magically flip a coin and become good and hold on to the ball or not. But, again, after him, though, at least they got a veteran in Dan Arnold from Carolina. At least he's a capable tight end. He might be in the starter halfway through the season because Evan Ingram can't stay healthy. And then defensively, I think they got better, especially with their 2 high first-round draft picks. They got Devin Lloyd, who's going to come in as that linebacker position. You got Trayvon Walker, who I think is going to be amazing for them and this defense. But all in all, this is a team that defensively looks like they are ready to go defensively. Offensively, still a work in progress, especially with a new offensive scheme and what have you. So, to me, the Jaguars still are downward until they prove otherwise.
Yeah, it seems like they're just setting it up that it's like the quarterback is good enough to get them where they need to go. Almost like how Aaron Rodgers has kind of been that guy to try and throw it to whoever might be out there. As long as they have their guy, they feel like they can move on and then have that good defense, as opposed to the other way. Like we've seen some of these good receivers with a Trent Dilfer and things like that, and a Joe Flacco, so I think it's just a flip-flop situation for them. Defense first and then the offense. The way.
And then the other thing, too, is like don't forget Travis Etienne is now returning.
Yeah, finally,
we'll see
him for once.
So technically, he's still a rookie.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get to see him at all last season.
Yep. All right, so that's moving on to now the Tennessee Titans in this division here. Again, Joe, what do you think about the Titans here? I'm kind of feeling like, I'm waiting for them to take that step back, and it's not like I'm really praying for their demise. I just looking at what they have and how they're able to hold off some of these other teams trying to force their way into the playoffs here in this strong AFC, especially now when you have the likes of like a Russell Wilson in there now, and Deshaun Watson's going to be in this conference now too as well. So, I mean, having to fight off guys like that. But again, like I said, last year they surprised me to where they sneakily, and with the help from the Chiefs just not playing up to par, jumped right into that, number 1 in the AFC spot last season.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that was surprised with this team. I was shocked, to be honest.
With Derrick Henry being injured a lot.
To be completely honest, I was shocked by the fact that this defense played so well. I didn't expect that at all. And for them to come out and really punch the rest of the league in the mouth. I mean, their defense was one of the top defenses in the league last year. And they are returning. So I honestly don't think they're going anywhere defensively. I think they're going to be a stout defense again this year. They didn't lose anybody really. They brought in some depth pieces to maybe bolster the backup spots. But other than that, you look at their offense, that went through a little bit of a change, right? No more A.J. Brown. He gets dealt to the Eagles. Sorry, Jimmy, you got to deal with him.
Yeah, I know. It sucks.
But they
do get Robert Woods,
in turn, they go ahead and they sign Robert Woods. They bring him in. He's going to be their number 1 receiver. And in the draft, they drafted Treylon Burks, who is almost the mirror image of A.J. Brown. A guy that can do a lot of different things. Listen, in college, they used him to run the ball, kind of like a Deebo Samuel, and they used him in the passing game. So look for the Titans to utilize him being the physical receiver that he is across the middle of the football field, giving him the football and let him run with it after the catch. So I think this team hasn't gotten much different. I mean, they went through a little bit of a change at right tackle, but all in all, this is a team that surprisingly was the number 1 seed last year, and I can't take nothing away from them. They didn't go through a big overhaul on the roster, and it looks like they're still strong. The one thing that I'll give them kudos for is in this year's draft, they also drafted hopefully the successor at quarterback in Malik Willis. In my mind, he has the potential to be far beyond better than anybody in this draft. As long as he gets the cerebral part of the game locked down, he's got extreme potential over Ryan Tannehill. That's for sure. So that's why he's the backup now. He's going to need to develop 2 or 3 more years down the road. But in the end, it looks like they got their franchise guy to replace Tannehill when needed. So this team, very solid still. They're trending upward for me.
All right, and again, that's going to be the battle is between some of these. Basically, it's their division to give up, but will the Colts finally make that push to try and force these guys out of it and get them to where they're trying to expect themselves to be here? All right, so now moving on finally to the AFC West here, which is the Wild West right now. I think the craziest thing here this season, because you got the addition of Russell Wilson now too as well onto this team here. So what team do we want to start off first with? We got the Broncos, right? We got the Denver Broncos here, Joe. What do you think about the Broncos?
I think the Broncos are overhyped. That's what I really think, because here's the thing. Is I understand they got Russell Wilson now, and don't get me wrong, I love Russell Wilson. I think he's a really good quarterback. I know he struggled last year as it got down towards the latter part of the season, but this is a team that has always had weapons, but they just never had a good quarterback. And it always seems like they always missed out on a quarterback, whether they draft one or they sign one in free agency, besides Peyton Manning. Can't forget about him. But other than Peyton, they've missed on everything. So they finally go ahead and they consummate a trade to bring Russell Wilson, a very polished veteran, to bring him in to have that veteran leadership to take on everybody else in the AFC West. And I think this is going to be a great acquisition for the Denver Broncos, because not only are they bringing in a vet at quarterback, but also they've had these young receivers for a few years now with no real quarterback. Now they're going to get themselves a quarterback that can get them the football in their hands and let them do what they want to do afterwards. So offensive line-wise, though, I'm not 100% sold on this offensive line. I still think they got some issues there, and that's where I feel like where Russell Wilson's coming into is kind of like the same deal that he had once in Seattle, where it's not a super strong offensive line, and I feel like he's going to still be running a lot as well. Defensively, this is a team that's going through a little bit of a change. Listen, they no longer have their head coach anymore. And Vic Fangio is gone. That defensive scheme is gone. They have a completely different defensive coordinator. It's going to be a different defensive scheme. Nathaniel Hackett is now the head coach, former offensive coordinator of the Packers. So, look, I'm almost curious to see what this offense is going to look like. If there's going to be similarities between Green Bay's offense and versus Denver, what they used to have, this team is going to be more balanced. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to mix it up. But defensively, I'm not so high on the Broncos as everyone else is. Not because I'm a Raiders fan, but because there's so much change that's happening defensively, scheme-wise, and all that. I just don't think that's a recipe for success. I think they could be really good down the road. But right now, I still feel like they're going to be beat up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the team too as well, and they've kind of been that team that I didn't really expect a whole lot, even before when they had the Drew Lock and stuff like that. Russell Wilson is a nice addition, but like you said, they've got a brand new head coach here, whole new different type of scheme. And Russell Wilson will do what he does. I think probably it's a better situation for him here than it was back with Seattle. Yeah. But in a division that's so tough here to compete with here, it's going to be tough for him to kind of fight through this whole thing here too. Just and with the way the other teams have kind of like your Raiders, I think have really added a lot of nice weapons here too, and built a good team. And Kansas City, I think, is still going to be competitive. And the Chargers are right there. I just think altogether in this division, it's going to be tougher for them, and I still think they slide down to the further bottom tier of this division. So that's why I think I'm low.
Here's something funny about the Broncos: is they have 7 primetime games scheduled. Mm-hmm. So the NFL thinks the world of Denver.
Oh, they do.
And what's interesting to me is the only big thing that they changed was their quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get it. Quarterback is important, and they will win more games because Russell Wilson is there. Mm-hmm. But this is the same team as last year that didn't really do so hot. With Russell Wilson there, don't get me wrong, they'll definitely get more wins. But I don't think it's going to be to the amount that people think. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like a lot of those primetime games are going to be a lot of letdowns. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's going to be even more games this season when they were talking about it, when they released the schedule, that there's going to be some more games flexed out and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe if they're going to be one of those games that are going to be open flex,
maybe
and
down
like
the
that.
down
the road. So we'll see. So yeah, I'm low on the Broncos too as well. I'm not super high on them. All right, so moving on now to the Kansas City Chiefs here. They no longer have Tyreek Hill, and that's a major big deal for them because that's what would set them up. You know, Juju Smith-Schuster, he hasn't been anything near what he showed that first flash in the pan for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when it showed that he had to be that number one, he didn't really show up. So now you've got a wide receiving core of Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez-Scantling here. That doesn't say, oh, we need to watch out for these guys and double team back here and stuff. So now the focus is all going to be on Travis Kelce, I think. He used to be able to excel because of some of those different double teams that they would happen to do with Tyreek Hill to get it to now Kelce underneath. So now the focus solely needs to be on Travis Kelce and then force Patrick Mahomes to throw on the run and into bad situations where you saw when he was able to not get it to those windows where he wanted to last year, he was flustered and he made a lot of bad throws and big turnovers and mistakes to where he got praised years before for some of these no-look passes or throwing it into certain things. Didn't go so well. It didn't go, when you flip a coin, it didn't, land for heads for him so much in some of those options that he did last year. So, and talk about on the defensive side, yes, they get George Karlaftis here for them, the DN, which is nice for them here. But again, on that back end, losing a veteran in Tyrann Mathieu here, there's a big issue there too. So, and this defense hasn't been like a strong suit for them anyways. They played well at times during the playoffs, but other times just kind of a mediocre type of defense. And I think they played up to what Steve Spagnuolo has kind of got this team geared to do. So this year, again, without the weapon that they had, I'd see them still competing here. So I think they're going to kind of stay the same. I don't think they're trending downward, so their stock's super low right now. But I don't want to say they're going to probably make a push and win the Super Bowl this year.
So they're even for you.
Yeah.
All right. One receiver that I'll point out, which is going to take the place of a guy like Tyreek Hill, but there's stipulations with that, is Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman is actually faster than Tyreek Hill. However, the thing that separates Tyreek Hill from Mecole Hardman is its acceleration. Tyreek Hill can get to full speed in like 2 or 3 steps, whereas Hardman, it might take him a little bit longer to get to top speed. So
it's like a difference between the cheetah, but then the actual jaguar or something like that. You know what I mean? The cheetah speed is super fast acceleration, but then dies out fast.
So that's why Hardman is going to be that key guy to where people are going to have to worry about him deep down the football field. That's what I think the Chiefs' mindset is offensively, is they feel like, well, we still have Hardman that he can push the coverage down the field, and then we can still dump it off to Travis Kelce. But he's not exactly the same as Hill. So that's where the difference is going to be. I feel like with Juju, good signing for a guy who is technically a slot receiver anyway and a possession guy. He's not a guy that can beat people down the sideline or anything. So I feel like this offense overall is kind of it's even. It's not really going to drop out. The floor isn't going to drop out from underneath the Chiefs offense or anything like that. But it's going through a little bit of a change, and I think it's going to make a bigger difference when we see them play, because they don't have Tyreek Hill, it's going to change the whole spectrum of their offense. Defensively, like Jim was bringing up, Tyrann Mathieu no longer there. He was literally the backbone of this defense. He was not only the captain, but the guy that got everybody in place before the snap occurred. And I think with that loss, that freed up Steve's D coordinator's name.
Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo.
Steve Spagnuolo. That allowed him to blitz a lot last year. Now, not having Tyrann Mathieu in his capability to do multiple things on the back end, that's not going to be an option, I feel like. They're not going to be able to blitz as often as they would like to. Even though they got Justin Reed to kind of replace him, Justin Reed is not Tyrann Mathieu at all. So this defense as well is going through a little bit of change. So for me, overall, they're even until proven otherwise. I'm not high. I don't think they're tracking upward. I don't think they're tracking downward. But it's almost like a prove it to me type of situation for the Chiefs. Offensively, I feel like they're going to be a little bit different. Defensively, they're going to be different. So I'm unsure of what they actually are right now.
All right, now moving on, we got two more teams here. We got the Vegas Raiders here, Joe. Why don't you start off first with here? You know them the best. What do you think about what they've done so far since the draft, but then also in the offseason?
Right, I mean,
a lot of changes.
Raiders, they've went through one of the most changed over teams in the NFL in one offseason. New coach in Josh McDaniels, new GM. They have Patrick Graham. You know Patrick Graham very well. He came over from the Giants to be their D coordinator. Mick Lombardi is their OC. Overall, roster-wise, receiving core went through a whole overhaul. Zay Jones goes to Jaguars. The year prior, Nelson Aguilar leaves, and he goes. So they went through a little bit of a change. They still have Hunter Renfrow, who everybody got to know who he was last year. Can't really cover that guy. They end up bringing over a former Chief, Demarcus Robinson, to compete for a receiver job. Also, the biggest acquisition of them all at the receiver position, Davante Adams. Coming over from Green Bay, a lot of people, me included, I was kind of like, this ain't going to happen. I thought it was too big of a trade, too big to do. And it happened. Davante Adams, when I heard the news that Adams was now a Raider, I was shocked. And then I was like, wait, how much did we give up for Davante Adams? I was concerned. They only gave up a first round and a second round this past year. That's it. Now they're off. That's it. Next year, they're going to have their draft picks again. So I'm like, I'll take it. They also managed to further stock up this receiving core. Keelan Cole, who you and me are both fans of. Maybe he can get some playing time there.
Year, right?
And Matt Collins from Miami. But overall, the offensive line is going to be the biggest question mark. That was a question mark last year, had a lot of new faces on it. And I feel like this year they're getting a couple of guys that were injured last year, returning now healthy, who were former starters. So who knows what the offensive line is going to look like. We all know that Colton Miller is definitely locked down left tackle. But other than that, you could see a new face in every other position. Other than that, I feel like after they get that squared away, the offense is going to be just fine. And then Josh Jacobs, no fifth year. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option. And a lot of people are like, oh, no, they're going to trade him. They're going to get rid of him. I don't think that's the case. I think the fifth-year option deal is some teams are comfortable in paying that extra amount for that fifth year.
Yeah, right.
But the Raiders were like, there's a couple of players on this roster where they're just like, no, we're not going to pay your fifth-year option. Prove to us this year that you're worthy of a new contract. So that's the direction they're going. Defensively, another part of the team that kind of went through a little bit of an overhaul. A lot of different faces, free agents. You can't not mention Chandler Jones, who was the league-leading sack leader, the last
couple of years,
2 years at least. He comes over to be teamed up with Max Crosby, and other than that, they bring in a lot of secondary help with Patrick Graham. You're familiar with him, how he likes to utilize different personnel groupings, different defensive schemes, formations, all that. So he needs a lot of different types of players. And they did exactly that. They brought in all the players he was interested in. Now it's putting it all together. Now I think the front four is set.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm more curious about is what kind of a defense they're actually going to run, because we all know Patrick Graham has stated with the Giants, and he stated again when he got to Vegas, is he goes, I don't run any type of scheme. There's no particular type of scheme. I run different schemes, multiple schemes all the time. So there's not one formation that you can say that I run.
Right. And you're seeing that a lot of times in the NFL right now with different type of schemes, formations. You're not your typical 3-4, 4-3, stuff like that. Like you've seen like the 2-5-2 and things.
4-2-5 is what you're seeing a lot of right now.
Right, and then just moving it around. And that's what I think a lot of these different coordinators are moving around and doing as we're evolving throughout the sport. Mm-hmm. And if you talk about the weapons you added on offense, this is the best offensive weaponry that maybe, well, I guess if you think back with Gronk days and stuff like that, but a guy like Josh McDaniels gets to work with. I mean, he's got to be ecstatic. His first time as a head coach there with the Denver Broncos, he went and got Tim Tebow.
That's right,
and he had
didn't have a quarterback then.
Run his offense. So now he's got Derek Carr, a better quarterback, to run his type of offense with a Devontae Adams right there, and then Hunter Renfrow, who's got to be your type of, if you want to think of them together, like your Julian Edelman type of deal,
right.
or he's got that kind of guy there with him. So that's going to be spectacular.
And Darren Waller.
And I think better running backs than they had there in New England as well, too, and Josh Jacobs. So, I mean, this offense, I think, could be really scary. And then the way that Max Crosby played last year, if he's the way to ball out like he did last year with Chandler Jones again, it just seems scary to me. So I'm excited for you as a Raiders fan and everything.
Right.
I'm excited to see how this division's going to look out. So I'm really hyped up on this team. I think that stock's pretty high for them.
I'm more excited about the offense, obviously, but
Yeah.
I'm also leery a little bit about what my offensive line is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know they re-signed Brandon Parker, but he's not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And from all reports, it sounds like Alex Leatherwood is predominantly taking over right tackle reps once again.
Mm-hmm.
So guys like Denzel Good are coming back from injury, who I hope that's going to be my starting two on the right side. Defensively, I don't know what to expect because of everybody that they brought in and Patrick Graham being the D coordinator. I'm just going to sit back and wait to see what Pat does.
Yeah.
Because there's no telling.
And one of the things to think about maybe with this offense that we've seen with Josh McDaniels' offense, though, is get the ball out quick. So if you do have a porous offensive line, if you're not sure about that offensive line, if he's telling Derek Carr too, and then the way he runs his offense, we'll just get the ball out quick, then they can't stop that. You know what I'm saying? So that would be good for them.
This is the interesting part of it, though. No matter what the offensive line looks like, it was pretty bad last year, and Derek Carr was throwing bombs regardless. So
absolutely.
If it gets any better, Derek Carr could have an MVP year.
Absolutely. So there we go. Looking at now the Los Angeles Chargers finally here for the last team. They've been that team that's been dancing around it, but I think the one thing that really holds them back, I mean, yes, they went and got Zion Johnson here to help them out in the offensive line here. Corey Linsley, that was nice too to have him there for them, but I don't think really there's parts about the team that they needed help with to get them further, but I think their coach had really killed them the most last season. You know how many times I've sat there and just yelled at Brandon Staley,
the
like,
field
what
goal.
the hell are you doing? Just get the points when you're out there. Because how many times can you want to be able to tell your team that you're behind them and this, but bring them down. You see them go down there and then come up with nothing. That deflates your team over time with it through the game or throughout the season, and then you just get deflated, and then you're kind of left them hanging. They follow you into battle, and when you let them down, we've seen it happen with generals. Oh no, keep pushing, sir. Maybe we shouldn't do this. No, yeah, we got this. And then boom, casualty after casualty. We've seen it in times of war. You see it here with this team, and it's really disheartening too, because there are so many times that they were in the playoffs, so had to go into that play-in team to where now your Raiders jumped right in there, and they were on the outside looking in. But the one addition, too, they do grab onto this defense. You see they focused a little more on this defense to get Joey Bosa some help there, too. And they get Khalil Mack to help them out now with Derwin James, too. Asante Samuel Jr. there is a nice he did really well for them last year, too. I liked on that back end. So it wasn't all just Derwin James. Seemed like whenever he was healthy, he had to be the guy. But when he was out, they really missed a lot on that defense. So hopefully they can stay together on the field together as a whole. But for me, again, it's got to be the decisions of Brandon Staley, man.
Yeah, Brandon Staley, he was his – I want to say he was like his
own worst enemy, right?
His own worst enemy, but also his best friend as well. Because when he would go for it on fourth downs, when he was past the 50 or close to the midfield, and he'd go for it on fourth downs and they end up getting it, great. You know, that was amazing. And then he would be aggressive as they got closer to the end zone. But he also was his worst enemy when it was on own side of the football field at his own 20.
Mm-hmm.
And would still go for it on 4th and 6 and didn't get it. And now you're turning the ball over with the opposing team already in scoring range.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he tend to lose games and trying to push it too much and trying to gamble way too often. Hopefully last year he learned a little bit and is going to pick and choose how aggressive he is throughout the game. Because you can't turn the ball over on your side of the football field. It's just a no-no. Be smart, punt the ball away, let your defense come on the football field. But offensively, they're solid. And the biggest problem for the Chargers for a long time was, they were going to try to find the successor after Phillip Rivers. They did that. Then it was their offensive line is terrible. They've definitely secured this offensive line. It is rock solid right now. And they still have those weapons in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. You know, they bring back Mike Williams on a contract deal. So they managed to keep the core together, and they're getting better together. Austin Eckler, hopefully he can stay healthy this year and play all season. Other than that, you know, defensively, they are rock solid again. I mean, they bring in a couple of free agents to kind of plug holes, and other than that, they go ahead and they trade for Khalil Mack, bring him in to go opposite Bosa. And to be honest with you, Joey Bosa is more terrifying than Khalil Mack right now. And at this stage in his career, I'm not worried about Mack. You know, if I'm the Broncos or Mack is not what he used to be, and that's why he got traded from the Bears.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm still double teaming Bosa's side no matter what. Other than that, the biggest free agent signing for them is J.C. Jackson, coming over from New England.
Absolutely.
A guy that is a shut-down corner to team up with a very young Asante Samuel Jr. and Michael Davis as your right corner. This is a nice secondary, and Derwin James is still there. So this defense got better. The offense got better because of how good that offensive line is now. So they're a very dangerous team, and to me, they're still tracking upwards.
There you go. So the stock is high in that division altogether. I mean,
stock is going up.
It's nuts, but there it is. We made it through it. All that stock. It's a lot of it's high. Some of the bottom feeders are still there, but we can't wait for the season to get started, dude. It's going to be crazy. A lot more stuff to talk about. It's going to be exciting. And June 1st, here we go. This official season has begun here.
We're here.
OTAs in full effect. Kyler Murray shows up. You know, so there you go. So maybe he's not gonna, do this holdout thing.
We knew that
and
was
stuff
going to
that.
happen.
Yep. And so we'll see what happens.
Everybody is kind of getting overblown on that whole situation.
Trying to find out stories, trying to get things going and say, what about this and blah, blah, blah.
Juices flowing on everything.
Yep.
But hey, listen, everybody, thank you for your support. Listen, if you're new to the show, or even if you're not new, and you know somebody that loves football, go ahead and direct them over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Search up Football on the No Show. Hit that notification bell. Let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook. We're on Twitch as well. And anywhere you get your podcasts, everybody, if you just want to take us along for the ride and listen to what we have to say, and then come back next week and drop in the comments below, like, hey, you guys were wrong about this, or hey, you guys were right on about that, or anything. Listen, the comment section is for you guys to be interactive with us so we can bounce ideas off us, opinions, or even if you want to ask us some questions, we're down for it.
All right, so that's it for us. We'll see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.